What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hammerdown Motorsports. Today we have something for the Powersroke that we're going to be adding today. It's something that I wanted to do for a while, and I finally got a bit of a deal on Black Friday. So we do have another beautiful box from Banks. We also have this for the boat. And drop in the comments, do you guys want to see a video on testing this thing out? This is a stainless steel barbecue that actually goes on the pontoon boat. So not too sure how many boat people there are out there, but we might try this thing out because there's two things I like. That's boats and barbecue. Maybe we can put those together on a video. But either way, let's take our box out to the Super Duty. Right now we do have the Porsche in the shop, the Rebel, and just, yeah, there's not really a spot right now unless we run the Camaro out. So we're just gonna do this one outside. I think it's gonna be fine. We do have rainy, horrible weather the last few days, and I think we should have enough time in a break in the weather here to get this done and just kind of show you guys that you can do this in your driveway. Let's hope the rain doesn't come back. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna set up here on the tailgate and get this all sorted out. Banks always has the best boxes, by the way. You guys see on the top, we got Eat, Sleep, Race. You open up the box. Come on now, she's in there. Prepare to smile. Oh yeah. Get the packaging out of here. We got a tube. Ooh, we even got a license plate bracket. That's a new one. We have the part that goes to our intake. We have part of our box right here. We got the big box. Oh yeah. Check that out. Look at that. We got a black filter. I have not seen those before. From what I remember, I thought I got just the regular filter. I think that's what this is, but on the website it actually showed a white filter, but this is actually a black filter. So pretty incognito. I like that. Then down here we have our Banks decal, and it looks like we even have two of them. And then we have our instructions and our clamps. If you're wondering the part number, we have it right there, 41849-D. All right, so first up, we're gonna have to save our original box from our Banks so we have room for this factory unit we have here. So basically what we gotta do is undo this guy here, and then everything else, pretty much just take out the bolts that hold it in, and we'll be able to take it from the truck. What we're gonna do now, I think there's a lock. Yep, there's a little red lock tab on the other side of this guy. Squeeze and pull, and then there's a little zip tie with a little kind of Christmas tree deal here. I'm gonna grab a trim tool to pop that guy out of there. And then, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go after this clamp here, the furthest one, and then open the box, and this whole tube assembly should come out. All right, so we got our trim tool underneath. Kind of work this guy a little bit. There we go, without destroying anything. We got that out of the way. Then right here, we got a little maze of coolant hoses. There's a little retainer right here. Pop that guy out. And if we look over here, we've got our clamp right there. So you want to just get your socket or use a flat blade on that, loosen that one off. Then we're just going to pop these clips right here. I think that should be all of them. We'll leave these two on because this is just going to stay together, and we can loosen this clamp. We'll pull this whole assembly out of here. And on this one in particular is a 7mm. Give it a little twist. I'll pull this guy out one-handedly. That guy right there in the box. Now let's have a peek down in there. You can see the inlet to my turbo, and usually after quite a few miles, I mean maybe not too many miles, but once it's sucked in a lot of that oily, nasty stuff from our CCV, sometimes that gets all kind of gunky looking, and mine looks pretty clean. I mean, we don't even have 6,000 miles yet, so we might still have hope of maybe preventing that from happening ever. Maybe a little foreshadowing to an upcoming video. Now we got our air filter. Got a couple little bits of debris in there already. Throw that guy in there. Next up, we're gonna get our trim tool on this guy right here. See if we can just nicely, gingerly get that clip pulled up. It's gonna get the center up and then get underneath the rest of it. Nice and easy. Get that guy out of the way, and we'll save this for later. Then next up for the rest of our air box, looks like this is a push pin that should pull up once we remove these two bolts. And he's kind of got to move your battery cable out of the way a little bit, but those are 13 millimeter. So we must have had an engineer on this one because, well, it doesn't exactly want to do what we want it to do angle wise. I guess if we had a bit of a wobble extension, that would probably go, but let's go with our 13 millimeter. It's our Icon long ratcheting wrench deal. So look at that. Look at that. I just wanted to use this thing because I bought it a little while ago. Haven't really done a ton of projects since I bought these, so yeah, lots of length. They're nice and flexible, so you can get in different spots with them. And you just kind of have that little bit extra sticking out from the wrench, so you can get into some places that might be a little countersunk that a regular wrench maybe would have trouble with. But seems to be the perfect tool for this job. But you can use a regular wrench if you want to as well. And for this guy, I think we're gonna go. All right, got our wobble socket down in there. Boom, just like that. Not sponsored by Icon or Milwaukee or Snap-on, but if anybody's offering, hey, I'm taking. All right, so I think we got some movement here in our box. Let's see if it'll pop out. And as you can see, the little snorkel is out. It just pops out once this little clip is out. So you can just grab that guy, pop it out, put it aside, and then you will discover there's a little guy down there. So if we wiggle on this, you can see that's moving. So we wouldn't want to be reefing on this crazy and end up breaking something down there. That would not be good. And they did hide that from us. So let's get that bolt out, and I think we should be good. And it's still a little kind of swirly wiggly here just to get that one push clip off. And this bracket, hopefully we can snake this guy out of here. Kind of be careful. Oh yeah, pretty simple. So we got some junk in there, so it's definitely sucking a whole pile of air and getting all of the trash from the yard into the intake. So definitely keep an eye on your air filter, especially running a factory air filter, because look how much stuff was in mine after 6,000 miles. All right, so being that Banks is a high quality kit, they do provide hardware. So we have our factory hardware here that is going to go in our box over there in case we ever need to put this back on, which I really doubt I'll ever do, but it's just one of those things. Then we have these 210 mils, which is going to be the replacement for those bigger ones, the 13 mil heads. And now we're going to kind of work our box down into place. You can see it has this little nub here on the bottom that is going to go in that there from the factory, and we're going to be using all our factory holes and lining up this section here onto that there where our air is going to be coming in. Also, there is a big window here on the side so it can get the fender air as well. So slowly, nice and easy. Feel everything kind of go down. Yeah, we're good. We are good. Yep, hole lines up really nice. You can see the other hole line up. It should be fighting this thing at all. If there's something in the way, you're definitely going to notice it. And this bottom piece just sits nicely in that factory grommet. So just take it out a couple times if you have to, but it should just sit in there nicely. I don't have to hold it in place to put the bolt in. And we're just going to get our mounting bolts started here. So you want to make sure that all your wiring cables, all that kind of stuff is not going to be pinched in between your box or chafed or any of those types of things. We are rocking the Fuel 1/4 inch ratchet today. run these guys up. All right, so we have our 2 mounting bolts over here nicely snugged up. Our battery cable is nice and free out of the way. Also, you want to make sure your mass airflow clip didn't fall down inside there, so I just kind of put it over here just so it's out of the way, so when we put the box in, we don't pinch it down below and then have to redo everything. And if you guys are wondering what I'm standing on, because, well, these trucks are tall from the factory. Mine's only got a 2-inch level, and yeah, you need something to stand on sometimes. I'm 6 feet tall and I got to have something to stand on. So we have a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and then there's a couple of crates bolted together and works awesome. So next up, we do have our factory air intake tube and part of our lid here. And then we have our Banks one sitting here just kind of mocked up. And everything goes together really easily. And we do have all the clamps just setting in place. We're going to take up the slack on these. We're not going to tighten them all the way just yet. Obviously, this has to go onto our intake. So we're going to tighten that guy up. And then this one could probably get tightened up by now, but no big deal. We're going to do these all at the same time so we know they're all tight and everything's positioned the way we want it to be. Then over here, and there's a reason why we're doing this on the tailgate, because we're dealing with little tiny screws and all of that. So we have a T20. I'm going to take our mass airflow sensor out, and we have everything in the same orientation as it's going to go onto our new one. So we should be able to match everything up in the same way that it came off. Sometimes these, I don't know if they can be reversed, but we just want to make sure everything goes back on the way it should. We do have new screws, so we're not going to be reusing the factory ones. We'll just save these in case we ever need them. So we're going to pull out our mass airflow. You can see the white dot is facing me, and then it's also going to face Banks here on this tube. So we're going to slide that guy right in there. Goes in very nicely. And then we have no gaskets or anything like that. There is a O-ring on the bottom. So we have no gaskets remaining is what I want to say. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take these 2 provided screws. We'll get these started. Now when this is on the truck, if you do drop one of these, it might be hard to find. So that's why it's nice to do this on the tailgate. So get those guys started nicely. Then we've got our small screwdriver. Tighten these guys down nice and even. Don't have to go too crazy on them. Just want to make sure we're seated. And we got no binding or gaps or anything like that. Now our mass airflow is swapped over, and we can take this over to the front of the truck and see how this all is going to fit in our new box. Also, you will notice we do not have one of those little push checker dealies on this. We actually have an air filter gauge in the truck, but it doesn't have that little manual one that normally you'd see under the hood of these trucks. But we do have the hole if you did have one for that one there, but they do provide a plug. So we're going to be inserting the plug here today, because we do not have one of those on this 2022 Super Duty. Just gonna kind of give it a little twist, make sure that's nice and seated in the groove. Good to go. All right, so we're learning as we're going here a little bit, and that's why we make videos like this for you guys, so you can do it right the first time. If your filter and everything just doesn't seem to want to line up, well, it goes 2 different ways. I actually had the filter 180 degrees out, so that was why I kept everything nice and loose. Just spun it around, and then everything fell right into place perfectly, exactly the way we want it. And let's just take a minute to appreciate the size of this filter. Look at that thing. I mean, this is a big truck, and that is a massive filter. So now all we need to do is get all of our clamps, make sure every joint is nicely seated exactly the way you want it, clamp is where you want it, tighten it down, and then we are ready to put on our top cover, and then we can put the lid on, and that's pretty well it. Other than, let's do this right now. Very easily. All right, so our mass airflow, yeah, that's a little bit. Okay, I think what's happening here is it's around the backside of this cable. So I think what we're gonna have to do is route that around so we have enough, because you can see, if we try to put that on like that, it's not gonna work. So I'm gonna fish this guy around and get that one over there, and we should be able to plug in our mass airflow with no issue. So quick and easy, just push it through the back side around the other side of that positive cable, and we are good to go. Put this in its place, make sure we got our lock tab in, and then we will secure this in a minute. There is another thing that I think we have to remove, this factory one. Oh, I guess I need to tighten that up. Anyways, we're gonna tighten this. We're gonna cut this one off, I believe, and then there is one provided in the kit that is gonna go, I think, right here, and then keep this wire nice and out of the way. All right, so my recommendation is to make sure that you have this far one here closest to the engine on all the way first, with everything else loose. I mean, the filter probably doesn't matter, but this one might. And then get that one all the way seated, and then we're going to tighten that one down, and then you can move to this one. Make sure your tube is all the way in, and then we can go to the filter finally. And don't go crazy with them. I'm using a little 1/4 inch ratchet here, and I'm just using my 1/4 inch Milwaukee to run them up. But you don't want to go crazy and strip these clamps out. Just get them nice and snug and tight. And probably after a few days after you install, I would just probably go back after it's heat cycled a couple of times and tighten them again, make sure they stayed that way. So at this point in the game, we want to make sure we have all of our holes nice and straight, all of our clamps are nice and tight, and all of our tubes are nicely seated and exactly where we want them to be. So now we are ready to put our top lid of our box on. And that should fit very nicely right in here. And then you can see our hole lines up right down there for our factory little push clip. So we can get our hardware provided by Banks, put in these 4 locations, and we can tighten this guy down. So the top box, pretty self-explanatory. The longer screws go towards the driver's side of the truck because they go through all the different pieces. Shorter ones go to the passenger side, and if you're having trouble lining it up, just loosely start the one that you can get and just kind of go around, start them all, and then tighten at the very end. Now we're going to make sure our wire here for our mass airflow is sorted out. Obviously this big oval guy isn't going to fit in there, so we're going to grab some cutters and get this little zip tie off, and we're going to use the one provided by Banks. But I think before we do that, we're going to put the little window on here, because then I can actually set my GoPro on here and you should be able to get a very good view of that. Oh yes. Now that little window just gives you a little peek at your filter and just kind of makes this thing look a lot more beefy. And then people know you got a big Banks air intake on this truck. And look at that. Now we got a nice place to put you guys, so hopefully you don't fall down. Now nice and carefully, go and clip our zip tie off. Get it on a spot where we're not going to cut the wire. Just like that. Discard. I'm going to pop that little Christmas tree clip into our intake. Then I'm just going to kind of feel around, make sure my wire is where I want it. Make sure that's not right up against our EGR or anything like that. It's going to give it a nice little bit of loop here. Doesn't have to be crazy tight, just enough so that wire is not going to move around. Got nice clearance everywhere. Clip off our pigtail. And there it is. Now we're going to grab our little clip from earlier, push in the button, and there we go, just like an OEM fit. Now the question you guys might be asking yourself, do you need this little rubber piece that goes onto here? And from what I can see, there is like no room here, no room there, and this piece doesn't seem to want to come off of here. So from the pictures I've seen, I think this is the way it's supposed to be, but we always will have this, and it would be a pretty easy thing if we had to revisit this. But we're gonna keep everything nicely in that box, and we probably will never have to open that box again, because now we have our beautiful new Banks Ram Air Kit on the 2022 Platinum. So just for quick reference, we do need a T20 for our mass airflow to get the factory one off, and then we have 7 mils for our factory clamps, 8 mils for our Banks clamps. You need 2 Phillips screwdrivers and basically a trim tool, a wire cutter, ratchets, basic stuff. So very easy. We didn't even have to go in the shop to do this. It's right out here, hoping the rain would hold off, and we were successful. So let's get the tools cleaned up and let's fire this thing up. Definitely looking good under the hood over here, and you can hear a little bit more turbo noise from over there and a little bit more throttle growl. Listen to that. All right, so let's see what it sounds like in the cab. I can hear it already. I can hear that growl instantly, just on a tiny little bit of throttle. Now we do have the pedal monster on here too, and obviously the iDash. But yeah, we got a little intake noise now, and I always love that when I put a colder intake on. Oh yeah, we're gonna be having some fun with this truck, let me tell you. All right. Yeah, tire's a little wet, and that's not even like quarter throttle. This thing gets rowdy pretty quick. But I'll have to say, you can definitely hear it when it's idling. You can hear a little bit more turbo when you give it a little rev, just kind of at a stop. And you definitely hear, I would say it'd be about 15, maybe 20% more intake noise from stock. It definitely opens it up a little bit. And you're gonna have that big giant filter now, just not that tiny little flat one that didn't really do a whole lot. Yeah, it's getting a little louder, a little more happy. And where do we go from here? Yeah, you can barely give it any throttle right now when it's wet. And even with 30s, well, we don't have 37s, we have 35s, but they still want to get spun pretty easily by this 1,050 foot-pounds of torque. And we're spinning. It doesn't take much with this truck. Pedal monster included. And I have it on sport level 2, so it's not really cranked up just yet. I don't really think I need it any higher than what I've set it to, because it's done everything I've needed to do so far. But when you get into the higher RPM ranges, it sounds pretty much stock. So it's not like something that gradually gets louder and louder and would become obnoxious on the highway or anything like that. I mean, obviously it's intake noise, it's not exhaust, so you just get a little more growl on the low end and should add a whole lot more airflow to this truck. Turbos love air, and we're giving it everything it can get. Here's a little engine brake for you guys. A little more turbo whistle. Tiny bit more growl. But if you have one of these trucks, you know these things are so much fun to drive. So we have been sticking with the Banks theme on this truck. We do have their diff cover, which we did a video on too, and we also have the pedal monster, the iDash, and now the Ram Air. So if you guys want to check out any of those videos, definitely check out the playlist for this truck and see what it takes to install those products, because they're definitely worth it. So there it is, everybody. We have everything installed on the truck. I am very, very happy with the product so far. The look is awesome, the sound is great, and the install was pretty easy. Everything fit exactly the way it was supposed to. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and as always, keep that hammer down.